Okay. Bill, you should be able to hear on your phone now.
He's just got to unmute.
You have to unmute.
himself.
Yep.
And then I can make him a presenter on my end for the phone number, or
Okay.
what would you prefer?
Yeah, do that. I think he's gonna maybe look at the
Oh, wait,
computer.
no. Spotlight or remove. Never mind.
Okay.
That was not truth
Oh.
that I just spoke.
I'm going off mute, sir. Sec.
Okay.
My phone's not unmuting.
Oh. Sorry, Sharon. We're having a couple of difficulties, but we know you're there.
It's showing that he should be able to speak. So.
Yeah. On the Teams call on your phone, is there a way to unmute yourself? Is there like a little microphone button there?
Yeah, there is. Unfortunately, both of them that I push shows unmute.
Oh. Hi, Ben. Welcome.
You can hear me okay right now?
Yeah, we can hear you okay. So you're talking through your computer, though.
I'm going to talk through the computer, listen through the phone.
Okay. Welcome, Bill and Sharon. We're going to give it a few more minutes to, we had about 10 participants today, so we're going to give everyone a little bit more time to join the call. It's just 11:30 right now. And if not, we'll have a very intimate group and you'll get all your questions answered.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Where are you from, Ben?
I'm in Springfield, Virginia, outside of DC.
Nice. And what about you, Sharon?
I bring you greetings from Columbus, Mississippi.
Wow. We are all over the states, which we love. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we'll give it, I think, a few more minutes. Maybe, Lorianne, did you say you could tell how many people registered?
Not registered, but that are on. Registered. Oh. Let's see. No, it doesn't tell me that. Okay. It just tells me who's attending and others invited. Okay. And who's on the call, which I see Sharon and Ben on the call. And then Renee Meredith has been added to the chat.
Renee is one of the presenters, but she's not here today.
Oh, so don't request to join. Whoops.
No.
Hopefully she ignored that. Okay. Whoops. Let me just check one more thing to see if I can see who else and if it will let me see it. 1 sec. Let me check another spot. Tracking.
I think we had 5 or 6 people, I want to say. Ben and Sharon,
yeah,
were you
it doesn't tell me, unfortunately.
Were you at our small group session last week or 2 weeks ago? Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Were either of you at the last one we did?
Yes, yes,
okay.
I was.
You both were. Okay, great. I wasn't there.
I think it was last week.
Yeah.
That everything runs together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was last week on the how to get started. Okay, well, I think we'll give it one more minute. Maybe it's just turned 11:33, so let's give it one more minute and then we'll start. And if anyone joins us a little late, they'll catch up. Since there's not too many of us today, it'll be a good conversation. I was telling Lynn and Lorianne, and Bill knows this as well. We originally started our webinar series envisioning more of a roundtable discussion because I think it's great to collaborate with other contractors, and we have you know, Bill from the government and people who are willing to share their stories and expertise. But we've had such a great turnout on the webinar, on the bigger webinars, which is amazing, but it makes it difficult to have that more intimate conversation and roundtable experience. So that's why we created the smaller pods for follow-up questions and answers. And this is intended to be a collaboration and more of a Q&A session. So, feel free to jump in with your questions, and if you don't mind turning on the camera when you're talking, we'd love to see you as we chat. And really, the participants are going to be driving the discussion. So if it's just the two of you, you have a great platform. And you're like, oh no, pressure. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. It seems like it's 11:30. It's 11:34 now. So let's get started because we want to be mindful of everybody's time and make sure we end right at noon. I mean 11:30. Sorry. 12:30, which is the allotted time for today. So my name is Andrea Roschke, and if you were on any of our bigger webinar presentations, you probably saw me there. I'm a partner in the business solutions group at SingerLewak, and we're an accounting firm and consulting firm headquartered in Los Angeles, but we have offices in 7 states. And I've been working with companies who contract with the federal government for the past 35 years. So I'm I know a lot about the accounting side, and I've been a member of the NCMA San Fernando Valley chapter for many years, which is where I met Bill and Renee, our other member. So I'm going to let our experts introduce themselves, but first I'll let Bill Foster, who's the Director of Contracts at DCMA in Southern California, talk about his wealth of experience. He's on our call twice, but he's on his phone and his computer. So hopefully one of those will allow him to chat. Bill, are you there? Which Bill is going to talk? You have to unmute one of them. Nothing.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Ben, it's good to see you, and Sharon, it's good to see you again. Am I echoing?
No,
okay.
Just to yourself, maybe.
Very good. So I'm a director of contracts for Southern California at DCMA. We don't deal so much in the proposal receipt. We deal more in the contract administration. But in my previous lives with the Air Force and other DoD and industry, I've been in that role of receiving proposals. So would consider myself very versed in the FAR and DFARs and the requirements for a government proposal, regardless of what agency you're deciding to do business with. So that's a little bit about me.
Great, thanks, Bill. And he failed to mention he served for 26 years in the U.S. Air Force. So I always like to say thank you for your service. And he was the president of our San Fernando Valley chapter of NCMA until July, which is when I took over as president. So, and next and new to our panel is Lynn Dines. We are pleased to welcome Lynn. She has a lot of experience, and I'll let you introduce yourself, Lynn, and talk about your background.
Okay. So I spent nearly 40 years supporting the federal government as a contractor. I never worked in the federal government, but submitted a lot of proposals over those 40 years. I served for my last 25 years before I retired a couple years ago. I was the founder and CEO of a small business that did a lot of work with the Defense Department. We worked primarily with the Navy, supporting organizations like NAVAIR, NAVFAC, NAVSEA. We worked with the Marine Corps, the Army, and the Air Force as well. We were a services contractor, not a product-based contractor. So there's a little bit of a difference in terms of, the kinds of support that we provided were mostly personnel related services. We were well known as an engineering services contractor and logistics services contractor during that period of time. As I said, submitted, I don't even want to count how many proposals over the years working for, my first job as a defense contractor was working for a company called SAIC, which is a major defense contractor. And then I worked for a couple of small businesses before going out on my own and starting my business. So some of what I know is a little bit dated because I retired about 2 years ago. So some of the systems that the government uses, the government is very conservative in the way that they do things. They don't work at the speed of sound. So a lot of what I did for 40 years is the same, but there are certain systems that they use and certain certification processes that they use that have changed. So I start with that caveat, but I'm happy to answer any questions that I can, and hopefully can provide you with a little bit of a background.
Great. Well, thanks for being here. And it looks like we have a third guest, Dinah H. Welcome to our pod. So we're going to make this very informal. And if any of the three of you have specific questions you want to ask? Or we can kind of, if you didn't attend our webinar on July 25th, where we talked about proposals, we can go back through some of those areas we discussed then. But this is really intended to be a Q&A. So did you come with specific questions?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute.
That's okay.
My name is Sharon Butler. I'm the program manager for the Mississippi Apex Accelerator. I'm a new PM, and when I came on, I only had 2 advisors. I lost one of them to retirement, so I am like rebuilding the entire program for the most part. Most of my advisors I have one seasoned advisor who's been with us 2 years. So it's a very, very new program with very new advisors. And most of my advisors do not have previous government contracting experience, as I didn't either. My background is more in government administration. I ran the economic assistance program, better known as the food stamp program for the state of Mississippi, for some years before taking on this job. I worked with Mississippi Medicaid waiver program in administration and that as well. So I'm not as, although I'm familiar with a lot of the proposals and things like that, I'm not as well versed as I would like to be and as I would like my advisors to be. So I guess my question is, when we have, as an Apex Accelerator, we have a lot of clients that, first of all, are not necessarily prepared to do government contracting like they think they are. And so we have to kind of, take them back to the beginning and say, okay, we've recently developed what I call a path to procurement, which kind of gives them a little bit more of an idea of what they need before they even start thinking about doing government contracting, because a lot of them don't really know what business they're in. They don't really know what NAICS codes they need to be using. They don't really understand the need for a capability statement and how it's used and that kind of thing. So I guess my question is, in order to help them to be able to be more responsive in terms of government contracting, what would you all suggest that they do when they see something out there and they're like, oh, I want to apply for this and I want to go for this? What do we do first to try and help them, go through the process of understanding, I guess, some of the terminology, and where do we go to kind of try and find that information and that training so that I can kind of help them, feel more competent when we talk to our clients?
Right. It's like a foreign language sometimes, but I think Lynn was self-taught, I believe. So she probably stumbled along.
As I shared with Andrea when we chatted last week, it's starting your own business, working with the federal government is kind of like walking, being really excited and then walking off the cliff. You don't know what you don't know,
Right.
and so even though I had been a program manager, program managers are like the best. From my perspective, they are the most important. That's the most important job at any government contractor, is the program manager. Everything revolves around the program manager, including accounting and contracts and everything. So kudos to you. It was how I started. It was my favorite part of the job, is managing programs and projects. So good for you. The things that I would suggest that they start with is, number one, they really need to get familiar with the SBA. They need to go on SBA.gov, which has a wealth of information about how to get certified, what certifications are available to them, some of the rules of the road for small businesses in particular, to start to engage with the government. And then the other thing is that most agencies, and certainly within the defense sector, each of the commands that you work with has what they call small business liaisons, small business officers, et cetera. So they want to connect with the small business offices at the locations that they're interested in working with, because those people are a wealth of knowledge. Some of them are better than others. Some of them are more helpful than others. So that's important to know. But they want to get to know those people, and those people will help to guide them. They'll help to introduce, if they like you, and they think that you've done your homework and you've done your research. They will sometimes introduce you to potential clients. You don't get the work directly from the client, but getting to know the client helps you to understand the work that is done by that organization. And then when it comes time to bid on something, you're better prepared to bid on it. The third thing that I would say they absolutely should be doing is going to small business conferences, particularly in areas that they're interested in working. So if they're interested in working with the Defense Department, the Navy has small business conferences at various locations, some on the East Coast, some on the West Coast. The Air Force, Army all do the same thing. So going to those, again, they're not going to get work there, but what they're going to do is to have the opportunity to network with other companies. Some large businesses, they'll get to know who the large businesses are. They can introduce themselves to the small business subcontracting folks at those large businesses. That's a good way to get into the industry, is as a subcontractor. And they'll have the opportunity to see some of the acquisition forecasts at different organizations that will tell them what's coming up for bid. It's really hard to start out as a prime contractor working with the federal government. Oftentimes better to start out as a subcontractor. So getting to know those large organizations is worthwhile. And then once they get a little bit of a sense of what's going on, they want to look at, they want to decide where they want to focus. So for example, if I'm interested in the Navy, and I have a little bit of background, maybe I might want to might want to go onto a NavAir website or a Navy website of any kind, NavAir, NAVSEA, NAIRFAC, whatever. And they all have a doing business with us page. And that page gives your small businesses a kind of a roadmap of what they need to do, who they need to talk to, who their small business person is, what their long range acquisition forecast is for that particular organization. And I think those are just things that they need to get started. I'm sure that they talked about, and I'm probably being a little long-winded here, so you can stop me at any time, but I'm sure that at the last webinar, they talked about the fact that you need to have certain things before you bid on anything. They have to be registered in SAM, for example. They have to have their taxpayer ID and their DUNS number. In some cases, They may be required to have a security clearance or have an approved accounting system. Those are really hard to get if you don't already have a contract. So again, being a subcontractor allows you to get some of that experience and you can't get a clearance without having a reason for a clearance. So it's kind of a chicken or egg thing. So being a subcontractor gets you that opportunity to get the clearance without necessarily being a prime contractor. So lots and lots of things that they can and have to do, and it takes time. So what a lot of us thought when we started business is that we were going to hit the ground running, and we were going to get that first job in a month or 6 months or whatever. You have to be able to financially support yourself and your organization for some period of time before you get that first contract, or get that meaningful first contract. I mean, we initially did what were called micro purchases, which were small credit card purchases. And we used to get really excited if the government had us do $2,500 worth of services. That was
just because it gets you like introduces you into it.
Go out for a beer.
Yeah.
And then you work your way up to those multi-million-dollar contracts. You don't get those right out of the gate, so it takes a while. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Oh, Sharon.
It did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was going to ask a follow-up question on the when you said security clearance, or is that something you wouldn't know unless you're looking at a request for proposal or something like that? Okay.
Right. And what the government, Bill probably knows this better than I do, but what the government says, and as a contractor, I probably have a slightly jaded viewpoint of what the government's saying versus what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Bill probably has a different perspective, but what they say is that you in many cases, they'll say you don't need to have the clearance when you bid. You need to be eligible for the clearance upon award. Mm. I always feel like it's going to be you're going to get a demerit if you don't actually have that clearance.
It's a barrier maybe to the.
I think it's a barrier. Yeah. So again, the best way to overcome those things is to start as a subcontractor, because it's quite honestly, it's not that hard to get a clearance, surprisingly. Sadly, I guess. Mm-hmm. At least I didn't find it.
I was going to say, maybe not for you, but some people might have trouble.
Sure. So so the first thing is, as a business owner, you want to make sure that, number one, you don't have any negative financial stuff in your history, because you have to get, as the owner, as the principal, whoever the key people are at your company have to be able to get a clearance. So it's not just the people doing the work, but it's in order for the company to get a clearance, the principal or principals at that company need to be able to get a clearance. So they're going to look at their financial background. They're going to look at their, drug abuse or alcohol abuse history, or if they've ever been arrested, or all of those kinds of things, to determine whether that person is somebody they want to, trust to do work for the federal government. And so before I can issue a clearance to my personnel, my company has to get a clearance, which means I have to get a clearance. Then, we get what's called a facility clearance for the company. And then the company now has the ability to issue clearances to their employees based on, certain criteria. So, but those are really important things to pay attention to. Your own behavior will dictate whether you can get that clearance.
If you're if you're entering as a subcontractor, so is there a proposal process there, or you just get to know the bigger contractors and then they hire you along with the?
So it depends. In our case, as a services contractor, what we would do is, first of all, you get to know them. Usually, we would meet large businesses or even small businesses. Small businesses sometimes will contract with other small businesses because they have complementary skills. So maybe we do engineering, somebody else does IT. So and the contract requires both. So you would team potentially with another small business, but oftentimes subcontracting is done with larger businesses. So what they do is they have a process, and usually you have to meet a lot of the same criteria you would as a prime, but not quite as stringent. And then what they'll ask you to do is, depending on your area of expertise, you'll participate in the proposal process as doing technical submissions, resumes. They may need some specialized skills from your employees that or specialized clearances that your employees have that they're looking for. And so you'll submit all of that data to them. They are the ones that are responsible for and again, Bill knows this better than I do. They refer to it as privity of contract. The contract is between the prime and the government. The prime then subcontracts to the other businesses. So we submit our information to the prime contractor. The prime contractor then actually submits the proposal. So we submit maybe resumes. We submit generally cost data to them. We submit our technical information, and then they submit to the government. The one caveat to that is that if it is a detailed cost information, that cost information goes directly from the subcontractor to the government, because we don't want to expose all of our rates, et cetera, and our margins and all those kinds of things to our prime contractor. We usually just give them a composite rate for whatever it is that we're bidding on.
Okay, great. Bill, did you have anything to add to Sharon's question from the government side as to how she can help her fledgling companies?
Everything that Lynn just said was absolutely on track. Unfortunately, I have the benefit of last week's discussion. Lynn did not. But the question that Sharon raised was really good, and Ben, you asked a little bit about that. I want to back up just a little bit from a government perspective, and that's the sub to prime is absolutely, we talked about that last time. That if you have not done business with the government, that's a great space to start in. Is that sub to prime, because one, I think industry to industry, business to business is a little bit more forgiving in just getting through the process. They simplify things a little bit more. I've worked in government red tape my whole life. We do it, and it can become so overwhelming that you get into decision paralysis, or just I just don't even know which way's up anymore, and that can be real discouraging to a small business. Whereas if you know your product, and that's where I would start. And Sharon, that's why I love your question, because I'm looking at the interstate truck behind Ben's picture there, and I love because I know we talked about your transportation logistics business. You guys know.
I thought he was just in a trucking parking lot.
But you know what your product is, and really, last week we talked about now we need to match your core capabilities, your what you want to do as a company, to the needs of the government, and more specifically, I think, to what Lynn was saying, the needs of some of the primes that maybe do direct government contracts, and so. We talked last time about, supplier conferences, industry days, going out and getting your name and your company in front of some of the people who specifically deal in, Ben, in your case, it's logistics, transportation and hauling and potentially packaging. I don't really know all the things, but that will open doors to say, hey, we're a over the road hauler, but we also have a capability of packaging stuff too, and packaging houses across the U.S., just at least in the DoD sector, are in huge need right now. We are in need of people who know how to package things and safely transport them, not just across the continental United States, but into foreign lands. So that's a huge need. But you might, those things might be expanded. I would absolutely, I'm looking, Sharon, you're right in the middle of my screen. So I love that you don't have to turn off your picture, but I love seeing your office, because I know you're an Apex Accelerator person. And frankly, at this point in my career, I'd almost love to come work for you, because I love talking about this so much. But
welcome. All are welcome. All are welcome.
But let me just say one last word from a government perspective, because we I've been doing government contracts over 30 years, and so I know a lot of vernaculars. I take for granted a lot of acronyms and a lot of things in our process that are a lot different than what somebody new to this process might understand. And I will say the government some often takes for granted what they know about government contracts, and not really putting themselves in your shoes as a new small business. So what I would tell you is, there's some ton of training videos out there that, and I hate to send you to training, but it's really good for you just to get the basics of what government contracting is, whether you're doing a municipal, state government, or federal government, and any of the executive agencies. You go on sam.gov, you go on to dau.mil, you go on to acquisition, federal acquisition.gov. Those are sites that have actual training resources out there, and you can say, I haven't looked at them for a while, but I'm sure that there's something that says getting started with the government. And even though this webinar is supposed to kind of do that, we really wanted to more guide you into more resources, I guess, that can go out and access, but certainly available. Lynn being on the phone, she's got an incredible wealth of experience. So if you have specific questions, yeah, let's talk to anything, especially if it's related specific to proposals, because you want to put the best proposal forward. You want to be competitive in your price, and you want to get your foot in the door for a requirement that is within the wheelhouse of your capacity as a contractor. So
Right.
I'll quit there.
I think the July meeting, one of the things that was first and foremost was understanding who you are as a business and what you do, because not so much as understanding, but being able to communicate that effectively, because that's part of the proposal, right? Making sure they understand what you do and what you're bringing to the table. Okay.
I think one of the challenges for us, and I wish I would have had an opportunity to videotape and record everything that Lynn said, because it's what we tell them all the time. It's very difficult to express to them that this is a process. I can't say that enough times, that it is a process. you know, and they see all these webinars on the internet, and they're offering, you know, $250 to show you how to get government contracts, or, you know, give us $2,500 and we'll get you in there. And, you know, we have to constantly tell them, you know, why are you paying for something that we can assist you with doing for free? Because they don't have an end with these government agencies. There's no quick and fast way to do any of this. There are no shortcuts. You know, there's a process, and unless you follow the entire process, then there's no way you're going to get to where you're trying to go. So just listening to what she said and listening to what Bill was saying, it makes me feel better, because I feel like, you know, we have them on the track where they need to be, and we're giving them the information that they need. It's just that sometimes, you know, like Bill was saying, it's a little bit difficult to express that to them, because, you know, they have, and I, you know, and I tell them all the time, I don't want to curb your enthusiasm at all. You know, at the same time, you know, we got to get a little bit of reality check on how this actually works, because, you know, a lot of times how they think it works and how it actually works, and the time frame that you're looking at and the processes that it requires are a little bit different, you know, from what their expectations are. So I think for my new advisors, I spend more time at the beginning working with them on that more than anything else, is managing those client expectations, because they can be very, very different from what we know the reality is in terms of what it would take to get a government contract. And I'm always preaching about being a subcontractor all the time. You know, my word about that is, if you can't go in through the door, get in through the window. You just want to get in. You just want to get in. It doesn't matter how. You just want to get in. So I think, you know, trying to come at it from that, and, you know, I was trying to tell them, I said, you know, you still get to use that past performance. You know, you still get to have that experience without all the risk. And so once I kind of frame it that way, it's a little bit like, oh, wait a minute, let's risk. You know, so it's a little bit of a juggling act, trying to, you know, help them to get there, but at the same time, you know, not, like I said, curbing their enthusiasm about being a small business owner, because we need that. At the same time, it's just a lot of, you know, like Lynn was saying, it takes sometimes up to 12 to 18 months to get a real contract. So
I would say for your multi-year, multi-million-dollar contracts, you're looking at 2 years. That's that. And I was told that when I started, and I didn't believe it, because I thought I was going to just blow the doors off of whoever my competition.
They don't know me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I, you know, and it took me 2 years, and the reality is that the barriers to entry into the government contracting space are very high. But there's a reason for it. I mean, you're dealing with, you know, really important stuff, and you're dealing with transactions that, again, are in the millions. They're not in the, you know, it's not like your local 7-Eleven where somebody comes in and gets a Slurpee, and maybe comes in every day, but they still get a Slurpee. The government is spending a lot of money on your company. It depends on what you're doing, of course, but you know, it makes sense that the barriers are a little bit steeper than in some other industries. They're trusting you oftentimes with critical, you know, decision making, and infrastructure, and all kinds of things, military secrets, and so logically they're going to make it a little harder for you to get in. So.
Bill, did you see the question in the chat from Dinah about the list? You said SAM.gov and DAU. What was the third you mentioned?
Federal acquisition .gov. I'm speaking off the top of my head, and for some reason my computer won't allow me to chat.
Okay, so, I have the FAR. I can do the FAR. That's the
acquisition
one.
Is that's the FAR DFARS. Sharon was spot on, and I liked what Lynn just said too. On don't go pay a lot of money to have you know, the quick fix solutions. I mean, I'm not going to discard everybody that has a bad, you know, solution out there. But the government really is set up. They want a really, really robust industrial base. We want suppliers that. So I say that in just saying, we want you probably more than you want us, and now we just need to, have more Sharons out there who can be there to give free connections between your businesses and what the government does. And man, if I didn't say it last week enough, I'll say it this week again. Apex Accelerators, I'm a huge fan.
That's nice. So Paul joined us a little later. I'm just saying hi, Paul, and we're having, as you can tell, it's really informal conversation. And if you have any specific questions, feel free to chime in. We have Lynn Dines, who's a retired CEO of a company who did business with the government and has a lot of experience with proposals. And then, of course, Bill from DCMA on the government side. So you have a lot of knowledge here in the Teams room. So can you tell Sharon? I wasn't at the last meeting. Can you tell us more about what Apex does? What the Apex Accelerator does? I'm sorry if it's a repeat for those of you who were last week.
Gladly. So basically what we do is we prepare small businesses to be able to procure government contracts. We provide technical assistance in terms of registering with sam.gov, referring them to SBDC and SBA for other small business certifications. We work with them on their capability statements. We work with them on their proposal preparation, proposal solicitation review. We have a bid match service that uses their NAICS codes to give them bid matches from sam.gov and other government agencies daily. And we also provide technical assistance post contract award.
Oh, so you're the expert in the room as well.
We do pretty much everything.
That's amazing.
So I always tell my advisors, there are a lot of things that we don't do, but we have to know about the things that we don't do too, as well as the things that we actually do.
Right.
So, so we do a little bit of everything regarding the government contracting part.
Nice.
I think a lot of our clients too, we end up referring before they get to us because, like you were saying earlier, they need a business plan. They need an accounting system set up. They need to have an idea of what their business is and where they want it to go, even before they get to us. So a lot of what we do is not just guiding them through that process, but just kind of trying to prepare them before they even get to us to be able to access our services. And all of our services are at no cost to the client. Amazing. Even the bid match service is at no cost.
That's great.
For us, for Mississippi. I don't think that's true for everybody, but there are 97 Apex Accelerator offices throughout the United States, the U.S. territories, Puerto Rico, and Guam. Some states have more than one site location. We have 5 regional offices here in Mississippi. I think Michigan has like 10. I only have 5 counselors. Well, we only have 4 right now that cover the entire state. So we're very pretty busy. Pretty busy.
Yeah. Well, that's nice. It's great to have you with us. So I'm like Bill, happy you're here. There was something else that you said that I was going to ask about, but anybody else have any questions for the panel today? And Sharon, honorary panel member.
Yeah, this is a little just curious question. Submitted a few proposals already. One this morning at 9:59 and it was due at 10 a.m.
Oh, good job.
And
you want to know why you haven't heard back yet? It's noon. No.
Heard back.
I did hear back. It was received. So
okay.
That's important.
But I guess my question is like, what's the chance of winning a contract proposal, whatever the word is, contract, if I don't have a relationship with the CO?
I don't think you have to have a relationship with the CO. You have to have a relationship with the client, if possible. The only advantage to having a relationship with the client is that, and that could be whoever is responsible for could be the program manager of that particular, program. It is that you have better insight into what it is that they're looking for. And so that's the advantage of having that relationship. And so again, the reason why we network at small business conferences and through the small business officers at various locations try to get in to see the client before the RFP is released. Once the RFP is released, you can't talk to them. But prior to that, you have the opportunity sometimes, some of them will talk to you, some of them won't. Some of them will say they can't talk to you, even though they can, whatever. If you can establish that dialogue with them, the advantage is that you get to know what it is that they're looking for, and then you can tailor your proposal, the technical aspects of your proposal, directly to what it is that they're looking for, as opposed to kind of going in a little bit blind and submitting a more generic approach. The more that you can customize your approach, I mean, if you do logistics and transportation, the more that you can customize it to where they're taking their their equipment, or what are there specifics associated with the transportation to this location or that or that this type of equipment or that type of equipment. The more that you can do that, the better your chances of winning. That's my perspective. I'm sure Bill has different perspectives from the government side.
So I'm right in line with what Lynn was saying. The proposal process is very structured and very stringent. That RFP process, you're not going to get an audience with anybody in that source selection once that proposal is delivered and that 10 o'clock hour hits. That 10 o'clock hour is, hey, we're now in formal source selection. We're going to evaluate all the proposals, and we're going to determine the best value to the government, and then select an award. But one thing that I will tell you that a lot of businesses don't do, and you should do, especially if you're brand new or just doing your first few proposals, is when you get notified of the source selection, the decision, ask for a post-award orientation. Not a post-award orientation, ask for a debrief. I have to switch my hats to pre-award versus post-award. You ask for a debrief because it gives you an opportunity to actually go to that contracting officer and ask, hey, why did my proposal not win? And even if you won, you can ask the question, why did my proposal win? Because whatever you did, you want to repeat it, right? And whatever you didn't do, you don't want to do that on the second time. Right. And sometimes the contracting officer will simply say, your price was too high. And they are required to tell you what the winning price was. That's a mandatory disclosure there. So you can start building a little bit of business intelligence just by making proposals on certain things and finding out what your competitors are winning contracts at, because we all have to bid to the same requirement. And if somebody's, if it's $1 million requirement and somebody's outbidding you by 100K, there's a good chance that one of two things is happening here. They're grossly underbidding in hopes of modifications to the requirement to make up that, which is what we call buy-in, or they didn't understand the requirement and they're going to take a huge loss, which I caution all small businesses, don't get sucked into the trap of, hey, I've got to have this government contract, even if I have to take a loss, because that will make a real miserable existence for you and your employees. So just collect that business intelligence on the back end of this. Even if that proposal you just put in this morning is not successful, ask that contracting officer for that debrief and get as much information as they're allowed to give you.
And when do I do that? When it's awarded, or I can ask right now in the sources sought?
You have a certain time frame that you can do it in, and I don't recall the exact amount of time that you can ask for a pre-award debrief I've never done that. We usually ask post-award, and I think you have 10 business days, maybe it's 10 working days, or excuse me, 10 calendar days to request a debrief. And I absolutely agree with Bill. Do it whether you win or lose, because the only way you're going to figure out, what your competitors are winning at is if you find out, what did I do wrong, and how much did they bid that won the contract when I didn't win it. The other type of contract that they have, I think Bill was referencing fixed price contracts. There's also cost plus cost reimbursable contracts, where a lot of contractors will underbid, knowing that they can recover. It tends to hurt their past performance, but they'll recover the cost, because they're going to be able to bill the government for whatever their costs are in the long run anyway.
Mhm.
But so you have to be careful with that.
Yeah.
We always, one of the things that was always frustrating to me as a contractor is that the government did not do more to look at the whether the cost that was being submitted by the winning bidder on a cost reimbursable contract was I know they do cost reasonableness, but sometimes the costs were so substantially lower, so much lower than what we could possibly bid at, that we wondered if they were doing a true analysis of whether it was reasonable or not. So just be careful of those things.
Because then if you really want to have trouble, if you can't finish the contract because you're out of money, or you have to
definitely on a fixed price, you have to be really careful.
You're never going to get another one.
We've found that before, where it was, I think we were the incumbent, and let's say, the contract on sam.gov said it was $1 million, but we knew it was 600,000. And so we bid it at 600K, and then the competitor bid it at $1 million. So therefore their price was cheaper, and they ended up winning. So that was a learning experience, I guess, but we knew that it wasn't that much.
Yeah.
But maybe things change. But that's a good note, Bill. I appreciate that. I'll definitely be reaching out to them. I've submitted a few, and I'm waiting on award info. So I'll do that as soon as it come out.
You mentioned the fact that you delivered at, what was it, 9:59 for a 10 o'clock award. I would caution you against going up to the line that close, because if you're delivering, particularly if you're delivering electronically, things happen. But computers go down. We would always, for my company, the rule was you did not leave the office until the proposal was submitted the night before. So if we had a proposal that was due at 10 o'clock in the morning, we would stay until 3 in the morning to get that bad boy out the door, because you never know. I know so many companies that have spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Proposals are expensive. And particularly when you get into those multi-million-dollar, multi-year awards, you can spend $30,000-$40,000 on a proposal. And if you miss the deadline, you're out.
It's over.
You can miss it. I had one where I was on vacation, and I got a text from our prime contractor saying that he was uploading the proposal and the time ran out. And this was for a major bid at NavAir. We'd spent months working on this proposal, and whoever was responsible for submitting didn't allocate sufficient amount of time. And the system, sometimes systems are slower. This was a bid through a multiple award contract called Seaport. I don't know if there was a lot of traffic on Seaport at the time or whatever. It didn't get in. So
they called you on vacation to tell you this?
No, he told me it was funny because I was on a ski vacation and I was coming down the hill and I saw a text. And it was like, and for some reason I thought maybe my subcontract proposal hadn't gone in on time. And it turns out that no, his proposal hadn't gone in on time. So that was
frustrating.
I have heard, though, that it's what's the word? It's safer to submit it a little closer to the due date or to the due time.
I wouldn't submit early. I'm just saying night before, not
Okay.
a week before. Yeah, a week before, because they can change the RFP requirements and then you just have to resubmit, which is
right. Yeah. Someone was telling me yesterday that even like the night before, like they could go to their incumbent and say, oh, look at this is so-and-so's price, which isn't that illegal?
I'm assuming that. Bill, you can talk to that, but
Yes.
I think it's illegal.
Yes, it's illegal.
You cannot, like I said, not only can you not talk to the contracting officer can't talk to you. So, and that goes for every single person in that source selection. That's a way to lose your job.
Yeah, and it's a way to kind of be, blacklisted, I think, in terms of submitting proposals through that contracting officer. Again, if you're caught, talking to somebody on your procurement, it's not a good thing. So you're not going to get the award if somebody finds out that you were talking to the contracting officer, or the program manager, for that matter, whoever is responsible for that, whoever is in charge of that source selection.
One of the
You just don't
things,
want to do it.
one of the things I will tell you too, because the integrity of the source selection is imperative to the government. Even if you're not a technical evaluator or a cost evaluator or the contracting officer or a contract administrator that's assisting that, you should not know anything about who's bid, what the bids are. That should, all of that information should be contained specific to that source selection. Because the more people in the government that know about that, the more chance you have of leaking things out. And that's where problems come up. But if you ever find in one of the proposals that you do bid on that your prices or your price, you don't even have to market. Your price is considered proprietary to your company. The government cannot disclose, and that would include your technical approach to solving the government's need. And I say technical approach, it can be, however you propose to meet the requirement. So that's always going to be considered proprietary to your company, and cannot be released pre or post award. So your numbers can't go out. The only time that you will get the numbers is in a debrief, and the only thing that they can really tell you is Interstate didn't win this contract. Whatever your competitor did, and here's the price that's the only thing they're allowed to disclose. They can't tell you how they got to that price or anything.
Okay.
Good to know. So we just have a few minutes left. Are there any other questions that are quick? If not, I have a few announcements about future presentations we're doing. We're good. Okay, so first I'm going to do a plug for NCMA. If you haven't, if you're not already a member, I strongly suggest you join the NCMA. There are so many resources available, training and collaboration with other contractors. Bill and I and Renee, who's not here today, all met at the NCMA meetings, and I just can't talk about it enough. And there's chapters all over the country. I just put the organization up through the chat, and you can do they have certification courses, which is good for furthering your education and moving you up in the contracts world. The next small group session we are going to hold is on the 10/9, and it's about a follow-up about resources for government contractors and how to obtain the certification. So hold on, I have a link to that on October 9th. And like I said, this interaction that we're having today will be available, and we'll email it to those of you who attended next week. And then our next large webinar we're doing is set for October 17th. And we've been kind of trying to follow the cycle of a contract. You know, the proposal was our last one. This will be about you win the bid. So now what? Because if it's the first time you're doing government contracting, there's a lot of things you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. So we're hoping to demystify that a little bit. We'll talk a bit about the account. That's our side, the accounting requirements. I think I've seen a lot of contractors get into trouble when they don't know what the requirements are as far as you know, for the type of contract and what you have to, how you have to present your invoices even. So that will be on the agenda for that day. Sorry, I'm doing two things at once. I'm going to share the link for the October 17th if you're interested in, sorry, that's the wrong thing. Hold on. Copy the link. This is the, and you'll get emails because so I'm having trouble with the link.
Hey, Andrea,
yeah.
will you find that? Can I just say, we've been talking a lot about all the free services, and this is not NCMA is not a service of the government. This is kind of a professional organization. So, you know, take a look at the NCMA website and see if it's something that, you know, seems like it would bring value. That it is a good way for, and there is some training, but you know, it's an independent agency that supports a lot of what we do in the government, in the profession of contract management. I'm a big advocate of it, but I certainly don't want to be the guy that says, hey, you got to go out and spend money to do this. I think that the value is much greater than the cost. And one of the reasons why we try to do these webinars for free is so that we can just get the information out there. But the fees that are charged, it's not we charge, because I don't get anything from the fees. The fees that are charged is to kind of create a board of knowledge at a headquarters in Washington, D.C. that allows us to, you know, kind of tap into the latest and greatest things that are happening.
Yeah, as far as networking organizations, it's really on the very affordable side of things. The only other thing, and I don't know if Dinah and Paul are local, but I know Sharon and Ben won't be coming, but we're having an in-person mixer on, although you could fly out to California, why not? We're having an in-person mixer on October 29th. It's a Tuesday taco night, so we're gonna meet up at a local place here in the Valley, and the San Fernando Valley, because we are the San Fernando Valley NCMA. And you know, as much as we love being able to reach out across the country and talk to good people like you, we you know, there's some Diana's in the DC metro area. There's some so you guys could collaborate, maybe. Ben, you said you're in Virginia, right? Or no, it's Sharon. Yeah, Ben's in Virginia. Okay. It's nice to get to know people in person. It's a whole different experience, right? We all know, because of COVID and doing all these virtual meetings, that having the 3D in-person experience is really a way to get to know your colleagues a lot better and learn more. So that's it for me. Anything else from anyone for today? If not,
thank you all so much for having this. I've enjoyed it very much. It's been very informative. Thank you.
Yeah, I really have enjoyed it as well, and getting to know people, and we're glad you were able to come.
Yeah, thank y'all.
We hope to see you again.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Lynn. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Hope to see you guys on the next one.
Yeah. All right, y'all have a good rest of the week.
You too. Let us know if you win the contract, Ben.
Okay.
All right. Hi. I think I have to do something to end the recording, but I'll figure it out.
Hey, good job, Andrea. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we should talk to Sharon in more detail, right? And get introduced, maybe get introduced to the chapter out here of APEC, or the group out here.
I think there's a Ventura County one, and I think there's a Los Angeles one. It'd be nice to find out where they're located. Maybe we
Yeah.
can have them as a
Yeah.
guest.
Yeah, I'm gonna reach out to Sharon and just see if she could introduce us to the local people. All right. Thanks for jumping on.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right. Take care. Bye.